the French Embassy, please. Can you come in front as well? Dean School of Diagnostic, please. Yes. Thank you very much. You're most welcome once again to this 17 MUAS University-wide Research Dissemination Symposium. Our guest of honor today is Professor Hezron Noga, representing the Chief Pharmacist. Karibu sana. We can put our hands together for him. We have also the Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Erasto Mbugi. Also, we have the Head of Cooperation from the French Embassy in Tanzania, Mr. Luc Blanco. And then we have the Dean School of Diagnostic Medicine, Professor Agricola Joachim. And we have the Acting Director of Research, Publication Innovation, Dr. Rehema Chande. I would like also to welcome everyone who is around here. I know we have people from the government, we have government official, we have our local and international stakeholder, academicians, we have scientists, we have more students, we have representatives from the media, and everyone who is around, you are most welcome. Now, without wasting much time, I would like to welcome the Acting Vice Chancellor to come and give proper welcoming remarks. After that, the representative from the Head of Cooperation from the French Embassy also will say some few words before we invite the guest of honor to speak. Karibu sana, the Acting Vice Chancellor.
Guest of honor, Professor Hezron Noga, representing the Chief Pharmacist, Minister of Health. Head of Cooperation from the French Embassy, Tanzania, Mr. Luc Blanco. Leaders from MUAS, invited guests from the ministry and other stakeholders. Keynote speakers, Professor Mate, Professor Sen, and others. Na wasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri, and all members in this meeting. Na wasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Before I go on, I have to say something about the guest of honor. Is by chance it happened today that he was my classmate from A level to undergraduate, and now he's a professor at the Sokoine University of Agriculture. So I welcome him as a guest of honor, but also as my classmate. Karibu sana. Why is he here? Is because he's representing the guest of honor, but also is a co-chair for antimicrobial resistance coordination. Ladies and gentlemen, MUAS started with only 10 students in one academic program. MUAS has grown to an institution with more than 4,500 students in 5 diploma programs, 15 undergraduate programs, and 95 postgraduate programs over this period of time. We envision to produce graduates with the qualities needed to compete in the global market, conduct research with practice and policy implications, and also offer professional consultancy services to national and international organizations. To this end, the university strives to formulate and implement flexible but comprehensive strategies which align primarily with countries' policies and vision. guest of honor, MUHAS, through the support of the government of United Republic of Tanzania and that of our development partners on building research and training capacity, has continued to be a reliable national hub for research output, supporting policies and guidelines, and supporting other institutions in the country. And as researchers, we have a responsibility to communicate our findings effectively, ensuring that our work contributes meaningfully to the betterment of humanity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those welcoming remarks. Now I'd like to welcome Mr. Luke Blanco to come and give some few remarks. Karibu san.
Head pharmacist, dear Vice Chancellor, dear members of the board, dear members of the audience. So I'll just say a few words, to remind, as the Vice Chancellor said, that antimicrobial resistance is today still a major threat to public health, to animals' health, to food systems and development within this region, in East Africa and beyond. It still is a great challenge and one of the major causes of death worldwide. It's one of France's priority as far as world health is concerned, and especially through the approach One Health. The regional project Rocket was financed by France and was conducted over 4 countries: Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia, and with 6 partners, among them MUHAS. They were able to break any walls that could exist for collaboration. They were able to have a One Health approach and to build up partnership that already existed, actually, to share knowledge and beyond that to go into action. In France, we actually organized a summit, One Health Summit in Lyon, the past April the 7th, and there were some new promises on the way to work in the future, so that data is shared and research is subsidized. So I'll conclude now just to thank MUHAS, that has been a historical partner for the French Embassy for many years and for research centers in France, and in particular Upendo Kibwana here, who has been a major asset in building this project and conducting it all along for those 2 years. Thank you very much.
Now it is my turn to welcome the guest of honor to deliver the road ahead. So it's the of Vice Chancellor, who is being represented by Professor Mbugi, but so distinguished head of cooperation from the French Embassy. Thank you for coming at this important event. But the Deputy Vice Chancellor, academic, Professor Emmanuel Barandia, I think he is represented by someone, but with a specific mention, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Planning, Finance and Administration, Professor Erasto Mbugi, my classmate, but also the Deputy Vice Chancellor, to officiate the opening
of the Antimicrobial Resistance Symposium here at MUHAS, of which the theme, as I said, advancing the fight against antimicrobial resistance in Tanzania, a One Health update on the progress, gaps, and the road ahead. I repeat, One Health updates on progress, gaps, and the road ahead. That means the problem is there, and now we need to be very smart at knowing on how to go about. And as we heard from the Vice Chancellor, that antimicrobial resistance is not anymore a future threat, but is a current threat. And therefore, we better plan ahead for how to fight that battle. Otherwise, it's already with us. And we thank God for the gift of life. I can see all of us are healthy here, and they are happy, and they are looking forward to share whatever they have been doing as far as antimicrobial resistance is concerned. But we also extend our gratitude to the sixth phase government, led by Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, for providing conducive environment for us to do research, for us to do studies, for us even to gather here and share our research findings as far as antimicrobial resistance is concerned through this important symposium at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences, of which it became the reality. Otherwise, had it been, there wouldn't be conducive environment, nobody would be here. And therefore, we really extend our sincere appreciation. If we don't mind, we can clap hands. Ladies and gentlemen, today, MUHAS stands not only as the host of the EMARA Symposium, as we are here, but also as a committed partner and a leading university in the fight against antimicrobial resistance. I've been seeing so many things going on within the university, of which they are really the champion as far as the fight against antimicrobial resistance, of which a threat that transcends borders, sectors, and generations. Antimicrobial resistance is among the 4 most causes of mortality worldwide, and contributing to an estimated 4.71 million deaths annually. 4.71 million deaths annually, with 1.14 million directly attributed to bacterial antimicrobial resistance. This is mentioned only in the human sector or in the public health sector, leave alone in the livestock sector. For sure, it is a problem. And the science is unequivocal. Antimicrobial resistance is the current and the future threat, and its consequences are being felt globally, regionally, and nationally in every community within every healthy system. Imagine in one location resistant pathogen. The human, animal, agriculture, and the environmental spheres are deeply interconnected. What occurs inevitably affects the others. The economic toll is stark, manifesting in raising health costs, prolonged hospital stays, productivity losses, and mounting pressure on national development. Ladies and gentlemen, recognizing antimicrobial resistance as a critical public health threat, Tanzania has elevated EMARA to the forefront of its national health priorities and is currently implementing the second National Action Plan on AMR, or on antimicrobial resistance, and its commitment has been very clear, of which the National Action Plan on AMR of 2023 up to 2028 involves, through the multidisciplinary One Health approach, by broadly advancing antimicrobial resistance interventions. Tanzania has made a remarkable contribution to the commitments of 2024 United Nations General Assembly high-level meeting on AMR, achieving up to 14% reduction in AMR-associated deaths and an 88% decrease in the national antimicrobial consumption. That is a very big milestone. And if we don't mind, we can also clap our hands to ourselves. But furthermore, enhanced sharing of antimicrobial resistance data on regional and global platforms, and increased domestic financing for implementing of the National Action Plan on antimicrobial resistance. Ladies and gentlemen, furthermore, to strengthen antimicrobial resistance awareness, as we are doing now, we are further advancing the awareness to the public. Thanks to the media, they are here with us, and just a single sentence spoken in this room, the whole world is going to get informed within a short time as possible. And therefore, for this case, to strengthen the antimicrobial resistance awareness and risk communication, Tanzania has translated the term antimicrobial resistance, AMR, into a Swahili word, because sometimes the local people or the ordinary people in rural areas, in the streets, they might not know what does it mean by that closely related medical term, antimicrobial resistance. What does it mean? But we managed to translate it to usugu wa vimelea vya magonjwa dhidi ya dawa. In short, we call it UVIDA. Usugu wa vimelea vya magonjwa dhidi ya dawa. In short, we call it UVIDA. And therefore, making it more accessible to a wider community. And the numerous nationwide AMR awareness campaigns have been conducted, reaching the audience from the national to the local community levels, using those simplified words. And a notable example is the Tanzanians' unique campaign, which went viral by the end of last year, including this year, known as Holela Holela Itakukost. Holela Holela Itakukost. For those who have never heard about Holela Holela Itakukost, you can just Google in your phone and then try to listen what is coming out. And you can agree with me. But the Holela Holela Itakukost is a creativity blends which brings science and art together to deliver simple and clear educational message to the public, of which we did the assessment from the time the Holela Holela Itakukost was out up to the end of last year. Up to 24.7 million community members were reached by that campaign. So this is a big achievement, of which the campaign has been recognized as a best practice in the African region, and was documented by the Africa CDC AMR landmark report, and this was published in 2024 as among the very unique campaign. And I happened to attend a meeting in Cameroon last 2 years. The Holela Holela was the song of the day. And those who were not aware of the Swahili meaning, I was doing a lot of translation to them, and they were so much excited. That song was being a song by every participant who attended that conference. So it's really a breakthrough. But Tanzania has also established a parliamentary alliance to advance integrative and coordinated efforts in combating antimicrobial resistance through legislative action, policy, advocacy, health promotion initiatives such as WASH, and resource mobilization. This alliance strengthens collaboration between policymakers and stakeholders who are engaged in antimicrobial resistance. So we thank really the initiative that the members of parliament who are making policies and legislations for this country, if they know what do we mean by antimicrobial resistance, it's easier even to allocate more budget in the fight against this enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, acknowledging the critical roles of infection prevention and control, IPC, alongside water, sanitation, and hygiene, WASH, Tanzania has worked diligently to reduce infections. And this progress has been achieved through mechanisms designed to prevent, monitor, report healthcare-associated infections in both clinical settings and communities, resulting in a remarkable 60% improvement in IPC compliance. Again, we can clap hands for that achievement. But not only in the public health sector, because our theme is on One Health, advancing issues of antimicrobial resistance using the One Health approach. In the animal sector, as we are talking now, biosecurity measures have been so much strengthened across most of the commercial chicken farms, most of the commercial pig farms, cage fish farms, and to some extent to the dairy cattle farms, ensuring that the product which is produced is of very high standards, is safe, and suitable for human consumption. Because if you read through the details of literature, the antimicrobial residues which emanate from the milk we drink, from the meat we eat, from the fish we eat, has a very strong positive contribution towards antimicrobial resistance, which we are now talking in this symposium. So that's what we are further giving an assurance and a milestone that through biosecurity, tremendous changes has been realized in our production system in livestock. But furthermore, vector and vector-borne diseases through control in livestock by use of some pesticides, acaricides, and others are being extensively undertaken. And this has a direct translation that if the vector and the vector-borne diseases are controlled in livestock, the uses, the unnecessary uses of antimicrobials in treatment of these diseases which are transmitted by vectors will tremendously go down, and has even gone down more. And this is an achievement. But of greatest interest, nationwide, we in the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries conducting some vaccination campaign against the priority livestock diseases, of which was inaugurated by the Honorable President of this United Republic of Tanzania last year. And all the cattle summing to 40 million, all the goats summing to 31 million, and all the sheep summing to 10 million, not without forgetting the chicken summing to 120 million, have been vaccinated. It's a very big achievement. We can clap hands for that. And this vaccination campaign is ongoing. As we are talking now, if you have a cow at your home, when you go back, you will find it is receiving a second dose of vaccination. And the purpose is to make sure that diseases are prevented by either biosecurity measures in our farms, by either vaccinations, so that we minimize unnecessary treatment, especially by use of antimicrobials, which are used up to 2 million kilograms in livestock each year. And for this year, last year and this year, we are noticing some decline in the use of antimicrobials, which is connected with the ongoing campaign of biosecurity practices in our farms, but also vaccination. But equally the same, nationwide, apart from reducing the unnecessary uses of antimicrobials in treating sick animals, but tremendously the diseases which are transmissible between human being and animals and vice versa have also tremendously gone down. We talk of Mycobacterium bovis as a cause of tuberculosis in human being and the cattle. We talk of brucellosis as a cause of frequent fever and abortions. We talk of so many other troubles, including the Rift Valley fever and others, which most of them are preventable by vaccination. So the campaign which are going on, not only are going to reduce the troubles in livestock, but also we are expecting some escalation of tremendous reduction of some sufferings and patients who otherwise are attending our hospitals in Tanzania. But food safety has likewise been enhanced by vigorous inspection, of which we are saying that all the slaughter animals should be inspected for their health before they are slaughtered, and all the meat, the milk, the eggs, and the fish before are authorized for human consumption. They should be inspected and certified to be free from biological hazards, for this case, the disease-causing agents, which could be transferred to human being through the food, but also they are free from the residues. And this is another milestone of which we are looking forward to reduction of antimicrobial resistance, which is otherwise a problem nationally, regionally, and globally. But collectively, this fight, these high impact efforts have significantly reduced the risk of foodborne diseases, reinforced health systems, and reduced indiscriminate uses of antimicrobials in livestock, and has tremendously advanced the EMARA commitment across this country called Tanzania. Ladies and gentlemen, Tanzania has established a robust system to ensure the availability and the accessibility of safe, high quality, and effective antimicrobials for the community, for the Tanzanian. And this has been made possible through having a very smart and centralized system, the medical store department, which oversees the procurement, storage, distribution of medicines, including antimicrobials. But additionally, the Tanzania Medicines and Medical Device Authority, TMDA, serves as a national regulatory body, as the only national regulatory body which is responsible for safeguarding safety, quality, and efficacy of medicines, medical devices, and veterinary products. This is a very big achievement, that all the issues are controlled centrally to minimize mingling and cheating, and TMDA has been doing a very wonderful job. We can clap hands for TMDA. Tanzania enacted the Universal Health Act to ensure equitable access to high quality health care services for all. This initiative is complemented by having availability of the standard treatment guidelines and the national from no capacity, which was at level 1 in 2016. And now we are at the stage, few people who are gathered here, but through the media, the whole world is going to hear about on what we are doing. And therefore, this is very, very important. And furthermore, these efforts are supported by strong partnership with the government, various antimicrobial resistance stakeholders, including MUHAS as a key and a primary stakeholder. And I take this opportunity to sincerely acknowledge the unique and enduring collaboration of which MUHAS has been showing. And as I said, that I am a co-chair of Antimicrobial Resistance Multi-Sectoral Coordination Committee, of which MUHAS has been a key player in implementing the National Action Plan on MR and so many other initiatives. So congratulations. We can clap hands also to ourselves. But as a MR MCC, we are deeply appreciating the connection that MUHAS has fostered through the French embassy. Thanks that we have the representative here with the other African countries. But we recognize this collaboration as a vital platform for shared learning and the joint planning of effective solutions to combat antimicrobial resistance, since antimicrobial resistance has no borders. Whether it is in animals, whether it is in human being, whether it is in plants, whether it is in Tanzania, or wherever it is, has no borders, and troubles could easily be realized. But the government invites all MR stakeholders to join this global, regional, and national movement by supporting the efforts to preserve the effectiveness of life-saving medicines, which we still have now. It takes years, many years, to discover a new medicine, but it can take hardly a month for a new medicine, for a medicine which is existing to be no longer able to take care of our common problems. So you see, very, very important for every stakeholders to make sure that we join hands to share knowledge, strengthen partnership, and ensure that together we safeguard the power of antimicrobials for generations for the current generation and the future coming generation. And as I'm moving towards the end, let this gathering embody a renewed spirit of solidarity and shared responsibility. Our collective action today, on the 3rd of June 2026, will be to determine the health of tomorrow. But I can say not only the health of tomorrow, the health of today and tomorrow, because tomorrow could be too late. So we have to collectively act together for the purpose of the health of today and tomorrow. And together we can protect our people, together we can protect our animals, and together we can protect our environment, which can be of great use and should not be destroyed or impacted by the so-called antimicrobial resistance, which is otherwise we have it. And on that note, I now declare that this 17th University-wide Research Dissemination Symposium open. Asanteni sana kwa kunisikiliza, na samahani mwalimu anapotoa hotuba anaanza kufundisha. Mtaniwia radhi. Nilipoona gathering kama hii nikatamani nikakumbuka kama niko na kipindi cha mchana nianze kufundisha, lakini nilikuwa natoa hotuba, mtaniwia radhi, lakini yote ni mema. Lengo ni kuona namna ya kupambana na usugu wa vimelea dhidi ya dawa hizi tunazozitumia Uvida. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. We can put our hands together for our guest of honor. Asante, because we are really behind time. We will have only 2 pictures before we continue to the next program. I would like to invite all the deans, directors from MOAS who are around here, and the PI of Rocket, and then heads of departments. You can come and stand behind the and MCC members, please join. MCC members, please join. And President's office as well, please. President's office, please. Oh, it's Prime Minister's. Okay, Prime Minister's office. The last picture, I say two, but the last picture, I'd like to welcome all the panelists. All the panelists together with the chair, all the panelists, and keynote speakers, panelists for today, and the chair, keynote speaker, Professor Mate, panelists and the chair. All the panelists today. Asante sana. Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask the guest of honor, together with the Vice Chancellor. We can go outside and speak with the media for a few minutes. At the same time, I will welcome the chairperson of the next session to come and introduce the keynote speaker while they are preparing. And all the high table, we can now stand up and move to the other side. And I will ask the guest of honor, together with the Vice Chancellor, and to go outside so that they can speak with a member of the media while we are preparing for the first presentation. Karibuni sana. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. Now we are going to the next session. Now we're going to hear a keynote speech, and I would like to welcome Professor Sangeda, who is going to introduce our first keynote speaker for today. Karibu sana, Professor Sangeda.
Hello. Okay, thank you, MC, for thank you, MC, for bringing us to the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are now going to be into our scientific session of this symposium, Advancing the Fight Against Antimicrobial Resistance in Tanzania, a One Health update on progress, gaps, and the road ahead. In the next talk, I would like to introduce the keynote speaker, Professor Mate from MUHAS. And I would like to take this opportunity to give you a short bio of Professor Mate, who is a professor of microbiology and immunology at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences, MUHAS. He's one of the stabilizing pioneer of antimicrobial resistance surveillance in Tanzania and leader of the SACID One Health AMR research group. He's a foremost advocate of the One Health approach, a champion of the vital integration of human, animal, and environmental section to effectively control and contain antimicrobial resistance. His research footprint is extensive and prolific, with so many publications focusing on antimicrobial resistance dynamics across adverse ecosystems, including hospitals, livestock, poultry, and local communities. And this is evident from global ranking statistics, which shows him as one of the leading scientists in Tanzania. So without further ado, I hope you are all set. The setup. Okay. So I'll still finish the remaining paragraph. On a broader scale, Professor Matei has driven systemic capacity building in leading Fleming funding supported programs, which aimed at strengthening antimicrobial surveillance infrastructure, while simultaneously contributing his expertise to Africa CDC antimicrobial resistance policy initiatives. Beyond his research and policy milestones, he has profoundly shaped the future of global health by mentoring generations of Tanzanian antimicrobial resistance scientists, some of whom are sitting here right now. So Professor Matei will give us a keynote speech on the state of antimicrobial resistance, current challenges, opportunities, and the path forward for global and local landscape. Please give a hand of applause to Professor Isaac Matei.
Thank you. Can you hear me? I would like to thank the University MUHAS for inviting me to be a keynote speaker. I think this is the third year in a row that I'm giving a keynote address on the important topic of antimicrobial resistance. During our time as medical students, the term antimicrobial resistance was non-existent. But thanks to the behavior of people, this is now a global threat. Okay? Unlike human beings or animals, bacteria, pathogens actually share a lot. They share gifts in terms of transposons, plasmids, and genes, which gives them the ability to resist agents that are intended to either inhibit or kill them. So today my talk is, I'm going to give you a synthesis of a global synthesis, and then African, and then go down to Tanzania. Next slide. Globally, it is estimated that about 5 million people die because of AMR-associated illnesses. There is a difference between direct death from AMR and associated. Do you know the difference? If a patient has got cancer and develops a resistant infection, that is associated. It is not a direct. It is projected that if we don't take measures, by 2050, almost 50 million people will be dying every year if the trend continues. And in terms of hospital expenditure globally, about 400 billion US dollars, not T shillings, will be spent on costs, increased hospitalization, medication, etc. There will be a significant loss of productivity, which is estimated to be around 4% reduction in GDP. Next slide, please. In response to the potential threat, the global community came up with issues. The GLASS, this is a surveillance program that is intended to monitor trends and pattern of antimicrobial resistance. Recognition that this is a One Health. This has been a tremendous recognition. Initially, science was confined to humans, leaving aside vet, and more importantly, the environment. The environment is an important conduit of antimicrobial resistance in terms that it is a reservoir, but also a transmitter, a conduit. And then there are issues of stewardship, controlled use of antibiotics or antimicrobials in a way that limits irrational use. And then we, as scientists, including MUAS, we're embarking on research in innovation. And the current trend nowadays is to move away from the antibiotics to alternative therapies like bacteriophages, viruses which can attack bacteria, or specific immunoglobulins that targeting pathogens. And then we have the national action plans. The national action plans these are plans that coordinate stakeholders at the national level down to the bottom to make sure that all sectors are united and combine effectively towards combating this. Now, why is AMR important in sub-Saharan Africa? My colleague, Dr. Zura Kimera, I think we are writing a paper on why sub-Saharan Africa is disproportionately affected by this problem. Yeah, about 250 deaths are directly attributed to antimicrobial resistance, and about 1 million, they are associated. Remember the difference I said? So, in a mathematical terms, the mortality that occurs in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, is 20% of the global total. Okay? So this actually is a threat to development programs. Okay? It is projected that if things continue like this, antimicrobial resistance will be by far the most leading cause of death, morbidity, mortality, and hospital associated costs. So, what are the drivers? Because we talked about the magnitude, but what are the drivers? Sub-Saharan Africa, unfortunately, has got the highest burden of disease, infectious diseases. Yeah, malaria. Most of the malaria occurs here, but also bacterial, fungal infections. Okay, HIV. 70% of HIV infection occurs in this area. So that is one point. Heavy disease pattern, and then this is coupled with limited access to diagnostics. Yeah. Actually, it is estimated that, and this is an optimistic figure, that about less than 10% of patients have got access to culture sensitivity facilities. And I'm sure, the figure is very, very optimistic. And up to half of the antibiotics are given inappropriately. Of course, because if you have limited diagnostics, then and it is a pity, because if we have so much infection in Africa, and we are producing a lot of data, for instance, at Muhimbili, we have a lot of data, isn't it? In terms of resistance. Why can't we use that data to develop antibiograms to be able to predict it? If you get a patient, if without facilities, more likely I can give this medication with, okay? And then we have weak IPC in health facilities. Actually, up to 20% of inpatients acquire hospital-acquired infections. And as you know, these are not community-acquired infections. By definition, they are much more resistant to infection, to common medicines than otherwise. And then we have poor wash. Yeah. It is estimated that in sub-Saharan Africa, more than 400 million people do not have sufficient sanitation, hygiene, and water. And then this is coupled with weak surveillance, in which case I was listening to the guest of honor with a lot of attention, but I want to tell you that less than 50% of African countries have got a fully functional surveillance system. Next slide. So what is the take-home message from the slides that I talked about sub-Saharan Africa? Is that sub-Saharan Africa by far carries the most burden of AMR, with millions affected. And this is really becoming a threat to systems, economies, and development. Okay? Next slide. So back home, what do we have? AMR is a big problem here too. Yeah? Actually, in 2019, it was estimated that about 12,500 deaths were directly attributed due to resistance, and about 54 million were linked. A person has got a different condition and is infected with antimicrobial resistant organisms. So okay. So can you hear me now? So Tanzania is one of the of African countries, East African countries, that has got a lot of antimicrobial. And it took us quite a long time to understand that this is a one health issue. As I said, pathogens have got more collaboration among them than us. Yeah, they share gifts, as I said, gifts in terms of genes, small and big ones. And these genes, they confer resistance. Bacteria becomes resistant by various mechanisms. They can pump out the drug. They can metabolize by using enzymes. They can alter the binding structure, etc., etc. And then gram-negative bacteria are more resistant to medications as compared to gram-positive. The structure of gram-negative bacteria is that they've got double membranes, which makes penetration of agents difficult. But also between the membranes, there is a periplasmic space, which contains a lot of enzymes. So studies that our department has done, and Bugando, Kwas, Mbeya, etc., looking for resistant bacteria, they've come up with a picture that among isolates, about 40 to 70%, no, please go back. About 40 to 70% are resistant. Yeah, and for instance, ESBL producing enterobacterial. Yeah, and when you're talking of resistance, actually you can talk of monoresistance. You can talk of MDR, in which case a pathogen is more resistant to at least 3. And then you can talk of pan-resistance, in which, so in our case, we see a lot of ESBL, we see MRSA, we see multi-drug-resistant Klebsiella pneumonia, and we see carbapenem-resistant gram-negative bacteria. All of these bacteria are recognized by WHO as being priority pathogens because they're very difficult to treat, and then they're associated with significant mortality. Next slide. So what are the key drivers in our case? And I'm glad Lillian and Upendo went through the slides to make them better. there was a study that was done here in Muhimbili. It found that among patients who were in the ward, about 47% were on antibiotics. And a study that was conducted by Seni, you're here. If I misuse your data, please. You conducted a study in 6 referral hospitals, correct? And what you found is that antibiotic use is much higher, 62%. And you see, there is a tendency, at least when I was a medical student, that there are kind of medications that it's only the top doctors can prescribe. And polypharmacy was not unusual. So some patients, 52% of the patients, had more than one antibiotic. Okay? So as you can see, this is a recipe for selection pressure. You have high levels of resistance because of heavy use. You have high levels of resistance among isolates from the hospital. Next slide. So, among other things, over the counter, this is very common. People go to the pharmacy to buy medications, isn't it? Without prescriptions, yeah? And that is quite a lot. It's almost 100%. Yeah? So, and then others request, and unfortunately, some of them do not finish the dose. So in addition to having some of the medications as counterfeit, but there is also misuse of the. Next slide. Limited diagnostics. We mentioned about that. Just to put data on that, is that only 5% of microbiology perform cultures, and that is mainly limited to a few referral hospitals. Of those tested, results are only available for a fraction. Patients do not want to come back because of many reasons. Okay. Saying again, your 6 referral hospitals, you found that only 2 in 600 patients was treatment based on culture and sensitivity. Am I saying correct thing? Okay, I'm glad. So the bottom line is that almost 95% of medications are given without laboratory data. Next slide. And then there is weak stewardship, which is actually related to what I said. So you will be surprised that most of our physicians, me included, about a third, this is a study that was done by Hall, that about a third, only a third were familiar with proper use of medication. So what it says is that we are a problem in this problem. Okay, so about 1/3 of the prescriptions had no documentation. There's, as I said, high use of broad spectrum. If you want to be seen, as a good doctor, you have to prescribe very strong drugs. And escalation, this de-escalation from IV to oral is very limited. Next slide. And this is an area where which has been really neglected. And I think Sangeda will. If you can't hear me, please. So there was a student whom I supervised, named Ganga Seguni. She did look for resistant bacteria in sewage here at MNH. And she followed that drain up to the Indian Ocean. And as you can see, I don't want to go through, the MDR pathogens in the environment are quite a lot. And there's international implication because this is draining towards the Indian Ocean, okay? So another study which was conducted in Tanzania, in Arusha, found that almost half of E. coli had a resistance to more than one drug. So what this slide means, if you forget everything, the environment is an important source of drug-resistant pathogens, and it acts as a conduit to transfer to either humans or animals, and it should be given equal weight. I'm glad that Zuhura, she's from an environmental background, she has been working on this. Poverty and climate change. These are, I mean, if you talk of poverty, you're talking of many things, and being unable to afford medication, complete dose. Yeah. It is estimated that 26% of us live below poverty line. I don't know what is the poverty line in terms of shillings here. I leave it to you. And then climate change. As I said, pathogens tend to change in order to survive in the environment. So if there are changes in temperature, for instance, they will adapt by making mutations that will make them resilient to the changing climate. Next slide. We have a lot of good plans, and in this country, I've been lucky to be associated with national action plans for antimicrobial resistance as a stakeholder. We are now in the second program, senior 2023, 2028, isn't it? Okay. We have costed, very detailed budgeted of activities. But the problem is funding. I don't think if the government, I need to be corrected because members of the MCC are here, the contribution of the government towards these programs is less than 10%. Most of these activities are financed by donors who might have their own agenda. Yeah, maybe they want to test drugs here. They don't want. So it is not a health system strengthening strategy, as it is intended to be in solving antimicrobial resistance an issue. It's about 10% of the budget is covered by governments. I think, should I go? This is a summary of what I've been talking. Do I need to go? Or we can skip? Skip, please. We have had a number of students here whom we have supervised. They found, I cannot see there, but they found a lot of antibiotics in fish, in eggs, in chicken, in milk, vegetables. Each of these, what you are seeing here, is a student whom we supervise in the department. So we are talking in capital letters of what we are. And recently, we also found a lot of ARVs. When we published this paper, we were almost kicked. Next slide. So we have talked about the burden, the drivers. So what are the consequences? Globally, it is estimated that AMR could reduce to about $1 to $2 trillion by 2050. Tanzania, we don't have enough data, but it definitely increases the duration of stay. It involves switching to more expensive and toxic drugs, which have also shown resistance. Okay. I think that is, next slide. This is also related that nearly half of isolates from wound infections, they contain WHO priority pathogens, which I mentioned, yeah? And this actually threatens maternal and child health services, like cesarean section, pneumonia, cancer, okay? Next slide. So this, as I said, was the government's response. This is the second National Action Plan, which covers between 2023 and 2028. And it has got 6 objectives: to strengthen governance and coordination, to improve awareness and education, to strengthen surveillance and research, to reduce infections through IPC, to optimize use of antimicrobials in humans and animals, and to ensure sustainable financing. I leave it to you to think about the level of commitment that we are putting into this. We have a very good plan that is costed, but I don't know how much it is being financed. Next. So there is donor dependence. There's uneven implementation of activities across regions and across levels of service delivery. I'm sure in the dispensaries and the lower facilities, most of what we are talking about in terms of containment of AMR is none of the above, non-existent. There is inadequate monitoring, so we don't have a systematic way of collecting data to be able to monitor trends and patterns. And whenever we do intervention, it is not, we don't monitor how successful we are. And again, issues of stewardship. Next slide. This is the same, that we are donor dependent in many activities. I don't need to go into this because you have them. So this is something that we have to discuss. It is not about the slide. From the discussion that we have had, what do you think are the priority research areas for us as MUAS to contribute towards? Any ideas? Lillian. This is interactive. Anyone with first of all, we must have good surveillance data, sindio? So that we know the problem. Yeah, we have this magnitude of the problem, and we have so the pattern and magnitude. The second thing is to implement measures. We have seen quite a lot of things that are not happening properly. Those need to be put into place. Okay? And then, as I said, we have to think out of the box to go outside the antibiotics and the conventional medications that we have now. There are quite a lot of investigations that, and then we have to use AI. So, as I said, you are doing a lot of culture and sensitivity results, for instance, in facilities. You're producing a lot of data, very useful data, but it is not being used. In the Western countries, this data is also treated with AI algorithms to be able to predict the most useful. Next slide. So our role as MUAS is to generate research, to generate evidence, population level surveillance, and this is a One Health issue, human, animals, and environment. To do genomic research. This is key. Many laboratories now don't rely on phenotypics because of the limited significance of such results. If you want to know how rhizostomes flow between compartments, human, animals, and environment, whole genome sequencing is key. The problem is that it is very expensive. Okay, and then you have health systems and policy research. Yeah. We have to create information that will inform the National Action Plan. We have to improve diagnostics. The key here is to have rapid diagnostics which can provide the results in a short period of time. but that, and then training and capacity building. As I said, most of the slides that I was showing here are from our MSc, PhD students, which is nice. And then we have to mobilize funding. Unfortunately, the government does not give us substantial amount of funding. Therefore, we have to compete globally with the little that is available. And I would like to encourage people, groups, for the current UK NHIR call, we should apply. So what will be the expected outcomes? Strengthen the AMR knowledge, identification of national priorities, capacity building, partnerships, and commitment to action. We are talking a lot, but it's only a fraction of which is put into action. Next slide. So, in closing my long talk, is that we as a Tanzanian leading health science university, we play a vital role in generating evidence, training AMR workforce, strengthening laboratory capacity, inform policy in order to reduce antimicrobial resistance through a One Health approach. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Professor Mate, for a very enlightening talk. You have covered a lot, and you have sent home your key message, which will help us to move forward in the fight against antimicrobial resistance. You have highlighted how limited we are towards universal health coverage and the Sustainable Development Goals because of the problem that arises due to antimicrobial resistance. And you have called upon progressive research and policy actions into looking at the magnitude of the problem, doing monitoring and evaluation, using innovative tools like AI, and also you have called upon the use of genomics as one of the innovation as well, and you have called upon training and also calling for further funding, including the recent call to NHR, which should generate quite substantial amount of knowledge to continue the fight. The next person I'm going to call is the very person who has made a very huge contribution to this symposium, and that is none other than Dr. Upendo Kibwana, also from MUHAS. Dr. Upendo Kibwana is an academician and researcher at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences in the Department of Microbiology and Immunology. She's the lead of ROCKET, the project in Tanzania, and a multi-country initiative aiming at strengthening regional and national capacities to prevent and respond to antimicrobial resistance through the One Health approach that we are really advocating today. Dr. Kibwana has over 10 years experience, has published many articles around antimicrobial resistance, including evidence about multi-drug resistance bacterial pathogens in different hospital settings. She's very dedicated and one of the key people who will help us to fight against antimicrobial resistance. So let us clap our hands as she comes forward to give her keynote speech. Welcome, Dr. Kibwana.
Thank you, Professor Sangeda, for that introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I see a lot of yawning. People are tired. But there's a common phrase, tule mtori nyama ziko chini. So please, we are almost there. We are almost getting nyamas. 15 minutes or so, very brief, to tell you what rocket is, so that you don't say these days it is into aerospace engineering. It is not rocket. So very brief, so that we really get time to do the panel discussions. So this rocket, it's an acronym, a French acronym for the partner countries. Uganda, it's not spelled Uganda in French. Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya. That's why we came up with rocket. It's a 2-year project. We started it in 2024 in August. And as the chairperson introduces, really the main objective was to strengthen the fight and our capacities to respond to the scourge of antimicrobial resistance through the One Health approach. We've been talking One Health, but in reality, for so many years, we've been working in silos. So this was a multi-country initiative, and it was supported by the French embassy. So in implementing this project, the previous speaker said most of our research are donor-oriented. But in doing so, you have to be keen. So in Rocket, we took keen of the National Action Plan, the second one that we are dealing with the 6 objectives, and we dwelt on the 2 objectives, the second and the 4th one, being improving AMR awareness, communication, and education, and the 4th objectives. So as a country, we had our components, because this, as I said, it was a regional consortium. So we had our 2 objectives, which we have implemented very well. And in Tanzania, we implemented our objective across different regions, including Dar es Salaam, Kilimanjaro, and the rest. So we could not do this on our own. We had different stakeholders. You cannot do it as MUHAS, or I cannot do it as Upendo. So we engaged different stakeholders, including the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Livestock. We had the MCC members who are also here, some technical working groups, universities, healthcare workers, and other implementing partners. So in our activities, we were around 6 or 7. We had to review the undergraduate curriculum on AMR-related issues, and in a very short while, we'll see why. We also developed some new SOPs and reviewed some of the existing ones in terms of testing pathogens of high priority, and also we provided some supportive mentorship to some of the selected sites. We also did some training workshop, and as a teaching university, our work is dissemination. So we did dissemination of the best practices in the first year of the project, and what we are doing now is also dissemination. So the expected outcomes was that we should develop at the end of this project some integrated antimicrobial stewardship curriculum for in-service healthcare workers, also to have some laboratories which have gone from one level to the next, integrating them into the national EQA program that is offered by the National Public Health Lab. And also we had a role of coming now with recommendation, where from our panel discussion here, some of the recommendations we'll get from these activities. So our first activities was to identify the gaps. I know some of us will say, do we really have the gaps in our curricula? Yes, we do. You'll be surprised by the data that we got. And here the issue was not really that we are not teaching AMR-related curriculum. Take a classroom, Professor Mloka there is teaching, vis-a-vis the one which Dr. Lillian is teaching on AMR, they will be different. Professor Mloka has a passion on antimicrobial resistance. That's her area of competence, but Dr. Lillian is into immunology. Now what guides them? It's about the curriculum. If not documented, it's not done. So do we have a blueprint when it comes in first year or in second year? What we supposed to teach them? So that's why we ventured into this, and this is the approach that we used. We used some tools that are developed by WHO, but of course we had to adopt them, and then we had different stakeholders, and the stakeholders here are the universities, obviously. So this is what we find. There are some areas which we are really good, but there are some areas that we are still really lagging behind. As I say, the issue is not that we do not teach them, but who directs you? Who dictates you to do that? Is your curriculum very vocal on that, or is it just silent? So we find most of the things were really silent, and this is something that we have to think about it. So one of the examples, one of the issues the waste management in healthcare facilities. I will tell you honestly, it was during that time I found out that we are supposed to return the antibiotics that we use if we've not finished them. But I'm here, I've been teaching for more than 10 years. That's when I find out that. But where was I to get that information? These experts, undergraduate, they are the people who are the champions, they are the pioneers, they are the power of information when they go out there. So people are expecting them, the communities, they're expecting them to know everything. When ni daktari, unajua, sindio? So whatever they tell them, whatever they feed the communities, that's what they get. And very unfortunately, for us who are literate or experts, we don't speak. Those are not our issues. I'm not a social media person. Sindio? We're all aware of social medias. A wrong message can really go viral. So we really have to empower these. These things are silent, so it's high time that we resolve this. But then we had an opportunity. Yes, there are some, the undergraduate will capture them in a larger group, but what if when they exit, all those who have already exited, what about them? So we also formulated and integrated a stewardship short course curriculum, and I encourage all of you, we are currently liaising with professional bodies so that you get to get CPD points to this. So sometime later this year, we'll advertise it in our website, so we encourage all of you to participate on this. It's going to be a 1-week program with 5 modules, and in each week we'll have a different module. There's nothing as I know too much. They say knowledge room, or the biggest room in the world is the room of knowledge. So please, I encourage all of you to do so. And then, as I say, there are some SOPs, and they were there, but they need reviews. Science is not static, it's dynamic, so things change. So we did develop some new SOPs, and the ones which were already there, we did some revision, but we did not stop there. We did dissemination. And this is the problem with many projects. So we do a lot of things, but do we disseminate? And to whom do we disseminate? So we made sure that whatever information that we had, we went down to the end users. And they were also part in making the new ones. So we also done some mentorship visit. The National Public Health Laboratories has a proficient testing scheme which is free in all the countries, and for microbiology labs which have the capacity to do culture and sensitivity, they're enrolled in this scheme. So we went there and we look at we took 12 laboratories, and the criteria was those which are not performing so much and also those which you are performing. So mentorship does not end with poor performance. Even those who are performing well, you have to mentor them, you have to nurture them. So it always stayed like that. And the keynote thing or a strike thing that I want you to notice that there was one of a lab, RRH, these were regional referral hospitals, and then we had some regional hospitals and just other healthcare facilities. So we had one regional hospital. So their results before the site mentorship, their performance was 58%, but after our site mentorship, the next score was 70%. There could be other confounding factors, but we cannot left out. Perhaps it's because what we did, because we really did site mentorship visit. We sat with them, show them step by step, and to be surprised, people do not know what you know or what you think that they know. So another thing that we did, we capacitated the Central Veterinary Laboratory to make their own proficient testing materials, just like what NPHL is doing for the human sides, so as to monitor the quality across the veterinary laboratories. And we have sent these samples to four sick laboratories, Arusha, Mwanza, Mtwara, Dodoma, and we are waiting for the results as we are speaking. So what has this project really done? Is it just another project or what? So we've done some capacity building. As I've said, we've done some mentorship to 12 laboratories, and 10 of them show an improvement into their results. But also we've empowered these health facilities in identifying and testing priority pathogens. And as I've said, we have developed the integrated stewardship and microbial short course, which will help us in sustainable training. While you're doing something or while you're implementing a project, challenges are always there. So we found some challenges. So there is an issue of loss in translation. So we know that the SOPs, you are here thinking now, right now, I'm not going to start all over, but to find that people don't know. As I said, the issue of dissemination, whom are you disseminating? Where does the data goes to? And then there's an equal triad. We've been saying one health, one health, one health. But really, are we moving in the same pace? I will admit, even in this project, environmental sector was somehow left out. So you see, that's a problem. And then there's an issue of staff reallocation. You train, and this is really a problem. You're going inside these surveillance sites, you find there are people who were well trained on what to do, go there 4 months, 6 months later. We know people go for green pasture, it's a good thing. People go for training to enhance their careers. But then it's like you're moving a step back. And then the issue of coordination among implementing partners. I'm doing the same thing, that is doing the same thing or even different, but how do you go about it? And then the issue of funds, internal funds. While we are doing the EQA or the site mentorship supervision, the lower scores not necessarily means that they don't know, but they don't have reagents or what to perform the test. So somebody is knowing that I should do this, but then I don't have reagents, there are no funds. So what should be done? Even if you teach them, and learning in primary, we're told seeing is knowing, remembering, but practice, it makes it perfect. So there are no reagents, there are no equipments. Even the knowledge that you have transmitted to them, and at the end of the day, it doesn't become sufficient. So what do we think will be done, or what's the way forward? So I think it's high time we move from the field to life. We are here, we are gathering, we'll have journals, I'll use the journals maybe to exceed in my career, but then how does it help? It's high time we think about getting this data into the right hands. Whatever you're doing, get them to the actual end user. And then it's high time we also start thinking about shifting the front lines, stabilizing the healthcare workforce. Oftentimes we like workshop. You call a few people, and after workshop you tell them, please go disseminate, but does it really work? I think it's high time we start going to the source rather than calling them. And then perhaps we should start reinventing the wheel. We should always build up on what we have and not start over. Today it's rocket, I'm doing this, and then tomorrow another project comes, and then it's like the start over. It's duplication of efforts. And then now this, I think, and I'm hoping among the members of the MCC or representative from the government, they will help us to answer the sustainability gap. How are we moving from here? It's something that we've been talking. And with that, I end my presentation. This is a group photo for our end of year 1 dissemination. So next time I present rocket project, I ask for your consent to use a group picture that we've shared today. And I like to acknowledge, of course, the main donor, the Republic of France, through the French Embassy. We have worked closely with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Livestock, MUHAS, and in MUHAS worked with faculty from microbiology department and pharmaceutical or microbiology, but most importantly, we also worked with the healthcare workers from the participating sites, and without forgetting the National Health Public Laboratory. They made this possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kibwana. I'm sure now people, they know how to pronounce rocket, because some of them were reading it like roho ket. And if you look at it internally, yeah, indeed it is, because roho is a spirit, and in the spirit of what Professor Mateo was discussing here, you could immediately see that Dr. Kibwana and her collaborative team have already started working on the issues that Professor Mateo had highlighted as issues requiring integrated approach to combat antimicrobial resistance. So congratulations, Dr. Kibwana, for that kind of talk. Amazing talk. Amazing talk. So you have covered some of the issues, including the sustainability of funding, issues of capacity building, and making sure that we continue this. So we will now move on to the next session. And the next session is going to be a panel discussion and we have quite a number of renowned panelists. I'm going to introduce them as they come forward one by one. After I read the profile of the panelists, they will come forward. Then we'll have a set of discussion questions to lead our discussion. For the sake of time, we might reduce the number of questions, so we may have a session for question and answers at the end. And Dr. Kibwana, do we have all the panelists? Okay. So I'm going to introduce them one by one. And for the sake of time, these are very prominent people with very huge bios, and I'm not going to read all of it. Just suffices to say these are very renowned people, and they are here because of that. So I'm going to start with our very own Professor Jeremiah Seni. And as he comes forward, please clap for him. Professor Jeremiah Seni is a professor of microbiology and infectious disease. At Catholic University of Health and Allied Sciences, KUHAS. He's also the Director of Research and Innovation at KUHAS, a registered medical specialist at Bugando Medical Center in Mwanza, Tanzania. He's also the National Chairperson of the Antimicrobial Stewardship Technical Working Group, which is also a member of the National Multisectoral Coordinating Committee, as you have heard from the guest of honor. And he's a member of the National One Health Technical Working Group and a member of the National Biosafety and Biosecurity Technical Working Group. He's the co-chair of Regional Antimicrobial Resistance and IPC Communities of Practices under the East, Central, and Southern Africa Health Community. So he has quite experience in clinical research and leadership in several fields, and he has published many, many articles, hundreds of articles related to the topic we are discussing today. So he's here, and he's going to share his experience. So once again, let's give him a hand of applause. The next person is Ms. Mwanaisha Mrisho. Please, let's give a hand of applause to Mwanaisha Mrisho as she comes forward. She's a public health specialist with over 3 years of experience in public health surveillance, preparedness and response, health systems management, health monitoring and evaluations, and she's currently working with the Prime Minister's Office on issues of police, parliament coordination, and persons with a disability. So as you can see, these are very key issues. And as you know, there is also a parliamentary committee which looks at antimicrobial resistance. I'm sure she's a very good link to that parliamentary coordination. And so she also works with the Directorate of Disaster Management in the Department of One Health. And she does a lot of other things for which we link her to today's talk. The next panelist is Dr. Joseph Malakalinga. Yes, let's give a hand of applause for Dr. Joseph Malakalinga. So Dr. Joseph Malakalinga is a senior quality assurance officer who works with the microbiology, molecular biology, biotechnology at the Tanzania Bureau of Standards, TBS. He plays a key role in strengthening food safety and quality assurance in laboratory-based surveillance systems. He has extensive surveillance expertise working in food microbiology, especially for foodborne pathogens. And therefore, he's going to be very useful in the discussions that we have today. So again, let us clap for our panelists. The next person is Dr. Matthew Mganga. Dr. Matthew Mganga, yes. Please let us give him a hand of applause. Dr. Matthew Mganga is a senior registered pharmacist, a health supply chain specialist with over 18 years experience in Tanzania health sector. He is a focal person in the national coordination of the bottom-up quantification at the Prime Minister's Office, Regional Administration and Local Government, TAMISEMI, and where he oversees the logistic management system, managing about 8,000 facilities in Tanzania. So he carries with him a heavy experience. He's a PhD from University of Dodoma and a very proud alumni of MUHAS, where he did his master's in supply chain, I believe, but also has done some ABA from Mzumbe. So he has quite some experience on the issues of antimicrobial resistance. And the next person is Dr. Sharon Ismail. Let's give a hand of applause for Dr. Sharon. So Dr. Sharon is internal medicine specialist in the infectious disease unit at the Muhimbili National Hospital. He's the leading member of the MNH Antimicrobial Stewardship AMS Committee. And you will agree with me from her experience that she's a very pivotal person in institutionalizing antimicrobial stewardship interventions by conducting some quarterly PPS studies for antibiotic utilization at the hospital. So let's again give her a hand of applause. The next speaker is Dr. Elasto Mayenga. Please welcome Dr. Elasto. He is one of the veterinary... Emmanuel. Sorry. Dr. Emmanuel is on the veterinary front line, and he works with the Tanzania Veterinary Laboratory Agency, and he's going to address some of the hidden challenges of unregulated veterinary dispensing and how we can incentivize the livestock keepers to reduce the prophylactic reliance. So we are going to hear from this talk, and for the sake of time, we'll see how much of the questions we have. I have 2 questions for each of the speakers, the panelists, but if time will not allow us, then I might skip some of the questions, or even add some questions if it adds quite interesting part to the audience. So, to open our talk, are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? Yes. Really? Yes. Okay, good. So, perhaps we can just divide them as thematic areas, and the first one is on antimicrobial resistance and use. And I'll go straight to Professor Sen with the question on, and he can tell us how can Tanzania better reconcile the dual challenge of ensuring universal access, which is a key issue that the country is trying to achieve, to these essential antibiotics, but simultaneously, we are again trying to control the widespread of irrational use of the same molecules because of their over-the-counter availability of these medicines. So again, it becomes like a dual challenge. Perhaps you can tell us briefly as a starting point for our discussion. Please welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Professor Sangeda, for that question. Striking a balance between access on one hand and then prevention, misuse of antimicrobial on the other side, it's indeed a challenge, not only in Tanzania, but also many other low and middle income countries. So I'm really grateful for us to be given this opportunity. So thanks to the organizers and greetings from Kohas Bugando. I think one of the questions would be, like, do we have, for example, machinery or policy guidelines which can help us to make sure that we push for the access, we minimize the excess, and at the same time we really counteract the misuse of antimicrobials? So the answer to this would be yes. Looking at the global level, we have the WHO Essential Medicine List, we have the WHO Access Watch and Reserve Categorization of Antibiotic Book, which was published in 2023. And if you look at these two documents, they clearly stipulate the issue for access. And they are pushing, like, of all the antimicrobials that we have, actually the access group should actually constitute more than 60%. And the 2024 United Nations General Assembly in New York, I think the heads of states also deliberated that the access to antimicrobials should be also something to be capitalized. And actually for the UN General Assembly, they even rose the bar. So it was not only 60%. So for for the UNGA declaration, they say the access should go should be actually more than 70%. So coming to continental, the answer again is yes. Last year in December, we participated in the continental workshop to push for the continental framework of antimicrobial resistance control. And one of the three key themes from that continental workshop was actually to foster access to antimicrobials, diagnostics, and vaccines. So it was clearly deliberated, like, we should really leverage the industrial partners, the implementing partners, local developers, so that at least we can foster access. At country, again, we know for sure we have our country aware categorization of antibiotics. We actually published it in 2020. And if you look on that, it had only 54 antibiotics. So when we revised it last year, we increased the number of antibiotics from 54 to approximately 70 antibiotics. So I think the issue of access is not questionable. If you look on our standard treatment guideline, within our national standard treatment guideline of 2021, which is in the final phase to be published, both 2021 and the revised version, I think they are also incorporated. They are incorporated with the National Essential Medicine List, but also the Access Watch and Reserve categorization of antibiotics. And then the next question would be, do we have now the mechanism to reinforce? This other part now, mechanism to reinforce people not really to misuse this agent. I think the two most regulations which this country have, which is really guiding us to make sure that we use these agents appropriately. Number one is the prescription regulation. So prescription regulation of 2020. So it clearly stipulates, like, someone should not actually sell or someone should not dispense antibiotics without a prescription. And actually, antibiotics is one of the medicines which are termed as a prescription-only medicine. So we have it. And I don't know if members know, like, if you go against that regulation, there is a penalty of a minimum of $500,000 to a maximum of $5 million penalty, or a maximum of 12 months imprisonment, or both. So I don't know if people knows that. That is in Tanzania. It was actually passed in 2020. And recently, this year in January, there was another regulation which was also endorsed, and it was also published in the government gazette. So it clearly says for the antimicrobials in the reserved categories, which are used in the human medicine, they should not be used in the veterinary sector. So I think we have all these provisions. So the question is, because we are pushing for access, now the question is, why do we still misuse it in the healthcare facility? And then why do we still have like over-the-counter medicine? So I think maybe let me highlight a few things before I allow my colleagues also to give some points. So I'm looking at two levels. So at the national level, at the policy level, I think we need to have what we call, we need to reinforce the regulation. But then the enforcement should actually be cascaded. So it should be like a stepwise reinforcement of those regulations. If you wake up today in the morning and then you say, from now onwards, no prescription, no antibiotic, I think you will deny access. And maybe there are places, especially in the rural, where you don't have even a prescriber. There are no doctors. Maybe it's only nurses who are doing that. So I think it should be like a stepwise reinforcement of the two regulations. And the way I see it, we can probably start from setting like cities where you have access to antibiotics, you have diagnostics, you have specialists, you have practitioners, you have laboratory scientists. So you have everything. You have pharmacists, you have nurses. So maybe when you restrict at that level, it will be easier now to probably start, reinforcing that law. And then after a few years, when you assess if it's doing well, then you go down to municipal, you go down to district level. And then by the end of like 5-10 years, you should be able to do it. At facility level, we have, if you look on our guideline, which we have the national guideline for antimicrobial stewardship training, the curriculum, there are 3 areas there. So you can have what we call persuasive interventions. So you make sure that you feed people with the policy, the guidelines, but also you complement it with what we call audit and feedback. And in this, we are really pushing for the joint major out round. We want in the major out round to have a doctor here, a nurse here, a pharmacist here, and a lab expert here. So that if someone is really using this agent irrationally, at least the pharmacist would ask, why did you decide to go for meropenem, and yet this person can actually benefit from 3rd-generation cephalosporin? And then a lab expert here can say, why do you even go for 3rd-generation cephalosporin, and yet the results are showing maybe just amoxiclav? So I think we really need to push for the joint major out round. And then the second one, we have what we call restrictive AMS intervention. So with the restrictive AMS intervention, for the settings where you have electronic systems, I think we need to go to where our colleagues outside the countries are doing. So you have restrictions. So maybe this kind of agent should be used by this kind of profession or this kind of professional rank. And you can have a restriction in the system whereby you can maybe not use, let's say, meropenem unless there is an evidence that you have requested laboratory results. So I think the restrictive intervention would be really good. And then the last one is a structural AMS intervention. With the structural, you cannot really limit use of antibiotics if you don't have diagnostic infrastructure. And that's why this should really go together. So the diagnostic stewardship and antimicrobial stewardship, they are actually 2 sides of the same coin. So we need to push for access to diagnostics. We may not, for example, actually push for culture and AST all the way to the dispensary. But at least you can have full blood picture, you can have inflammatory marker, and now we are pushing even for the point of care assays. So I think the structural intervention should really push for access to diagnostics. Sure. So I think those are the 3 things I wanted to highlight at policy level and at facility level, which when we put them together, they can probably help us to balance the access vis-a-vis irrational use of agents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. This is a very important question, so I will probably pass it over to your colleague, Dr. Mganga. Professor has said it very well. He has explained how the collaborative approach will work, especially in the clinical setting. He's talked about diagnostics. He also highlighted the punishment, what can happen if you prescribe over-the-counter prescription-only medicine. And I want to take it back to you. This dilemma, it's really a dilemma because we want access, which Professor explained very well, and yet you can find these medication over the counter despite the biggest legal actions that can be taken against. What can be done before I go to your final question? Just a highlight, if you can.
Yes, we have the Farmers Council that has dedicated its role to the regional secretariat and local government authorities that they need to oversee the farmers' practice both in public and private. So what I think regarding the question, we need to strengthen these authorities to oversee what has been stipulated in the Farmers Act of 2011 and their roles and responsibilities, so that these outlets, the public and private outlets, will align with what has been stipulated to reduce the overcount dispensing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mganga. And this will take me to the next question, just coming to you as well. So, the National Action Plan provides a roadmap on antimicrobial resistance implementation at the subnational level, correct? So what capacity building initiatives are most critical for regional and district health management teams to effectively track antimicrobial resistance data? Maybe you can highlight us on this issue.
Thank you very much for the very good question. The biggest role of PMORAG is, should I say it first before answering the question, is to receive and translate the directives from the sectoral ministry and send it to the regional secretariat and local government for implementation. So if you have listened very well the presentation of Professor Matei, he mentioned the drivers for MR. So to my thinking, the initiatives that should be in place to strengthen the MR should be reflected to the drivers, the professor has said. One is we are missing the surveillance data. So should there be an initiative to strengthening how could the MR data, surveillance data, being captured to where the implementation is being done, mostly in the local government authority. Two, if I remember, he mentioned the diagnostic, the laboratory. Should there be an accreditation of the district and regional laboratory to enhance the diagnostic? Another one is One Health. Yes, from the guest of honor, he mentioned the presence of a national multi-sectoral committee that in every 3 months they are sitting to discuss this MR agenda. But unfortunately, we do not have a multi-sectoral committee at the regional and council level. So should the Dr. Upendo project see how to support the presence and the existence of the multi-sectoral committee at the regional and council, so that that could be an agenda. The last one is just an advice. Yes, we may be in need of this surveillance data and all other informations. Are these indicators related to AMR being integrated to the health system that the facilities are reporting on daily basis? For example, at LGAs, we have what we call DHIS2, the system that reports each and everything that is happening at facility level. So yes, probably we may have a surveillance system. I don't know it, but I think what is most important is to have or to stipulate the indicators related to what we want and being integrated in DHS2 so that the facilities, the community, whatever level would have reported it, and the multi-sectoral committee would have observed it. So that is one. Two, yes, Upendo has said about the financing mechanism that currently it is donor dependent. Even the professor said. It is not that the government does not want to fund on AMR, but for the government to fund, everything should be highlighted in what we call CCHP, Council Comprehensive Health Plan. There are 12 priorities that the sectoral ministry has highlighted, that these are the priority for the country. Now, if we think AMR is a priority, that is very fine, and it is, right? Now, should we take these research evidence data we get here and the contributions that everyone would have contributed and ask for the sectoral ministry to incorporate in the CCHP guideline that the plan will not be passed if we don't see the MR agenda. And if we succeeded, there is where the government will fund all what we want, strengthening laboratory services, probably having a sectoral committee at region and council, anything or any activity related to MR. If it is within the CCHP guideline, then we will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you can pass it over the microphone. Yes? Yes, Prof. Karibu.
It's about the National Action Plan on Antimicrobial Resistance, isn't it? The 6 objectives. I think the government has been participating in the making of these national action plans. The issue is how, and the plan is costed. It is a 5-year costed plan with a budget. Now the issue here is that we may be discussing the whole day, how much of this cost does the government commit? If there's no commitment in terms of finance, it will be small projects like Upendo's, and once the project is gone, there's no scalability or sustainability. So my question to the gentleman who was the last speaker, I mean, do you know how much does the plan, National Action Plan 2023-28 cost? And what is the relative contribution of the government to that? Thank you. Relative to donors.
Thank you, Professor Mate, for the question.
Should I respond? So, Professor, having a national action plan is one thing. Incorporating those 6 areas under the national action plan in the district council plans, in the regional plans, in the health facility plan is another thing. Have we incorporated them within these plans? Because in government, on every annual, the facility, the district, the regional, the national, we are creating our budget, our plans. Now those plans are the one that brings funds through the government. Yes, we may have the National Action Plan, we have multi-sectoral, whatever committee we call it. Are they in the plans? So my advice was, could we request, please go and read what we call CCHP guideline. You'll understand what I mean. If you understand the CCHP guideline, you'll understand my agenda. This is the health sector document that request funds to the governments on an annual basis after parliamentary approval. Thank you.
Okay. So I see that you could not pick a number, but if any of the members, but you've actually directed us where we can go. And you've even given us an action item that to come out of the commendation of this workshop is to make a clear point that AMR is a real issue that will cost the country. I know, Professor, you've presented it, but is it reaching the policymakers? Are they able to prioritize it as a key issue that need to be prioritized for budgeting? And
should I add another thing? We have, I think even here in MOAS, you have what we call PEPMIS. Yes?
Yes, we do.
So if the AMR could be requested to the sectoral ministry, that whoever is responsible for AMR in his or her PEPMIS should be part and parcel of the reporting, the implementation of it, right?
Yeah.
That could reinforce, because these members are the ones that set in the budgeting plan. If this is my core business, my activity, then why shouldn't I send it to the plan so that it can get fund for me to oversee it during its implementation?
Okay, we get your point. And if any of the panelists has a quick point on that, we also, because it seems to be a burning question, I think it came out in all the discussions. So panelists, please feel free. You can, on the same point, so that it's clear. Dr. Kayuni. Okay, let's
thank you. Just to
finish and then.
Just to highlight a few things. I think the issue of funding is really challenging, but probably one of the things that we can start, for example, I don't want to go to region and district, that one Dr. Matthew has highlighted, but at least at institution level, if we could start slowly integrating, like budget line for AMR in our respective institutions, I think that one should be able to support. Through Fleming, I think when Fleming country grant was coming to an end like last year, I think one of the things that we're really pushing forward was, are we now ready to sustain whatever we have invested in you? And a few hospitals have actually started integrating their hospital budget. They're actually putting like a budget line for AMR. I'm from Bugando. So for example, in Bugando, when you go there, we have a budget line for IPC and AMR within the framework of quality improvement. A couple of million, not really a lot, but maybe 100 million or so in a year. And we are sure that budget line can actually help the institution, at least to fulfill some of these obligations. So if we could probably start with that, and then now we keep on building a case now, that will probably cascade now from like hospital, then maybe to district, maybe to region, maybe. But at least we need to have somewhere where we can actually start.
Thank you very much, Professor. So Dr. Sharon has done some quarterly assessment at their hospital. Maybe you want to contribute how they are funded, and then we see. Just quickly, because your question is coming, Doctor.
So for Muhimbili National Hospital, we have been doing the quarterly PPS survey, and all has been funded by the Fleming Fund and MOAS and some from the Ministry of Health. So we also get support from the Fleming Fund.
Okay, thank you for that. So indeed, you should look at how you're going to sustain this kind of seasonal funding. Dr. Kayuni, and then we continue with the next question.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted just to make an elaboration. Or if you see who is asking this and that one, people, they have to know what is MR, first of all, and how the National Action Plan have written about that. What is the gap, how they have addressed on the National Action Plan. And also, what is the relation of normal life, daily activities to AMR? Because some they are doing AMR activity and then they don't know that they are doing AMR activity. It's like, I want maybe researcher to research to see the government budget and the MR activities which are within the government budget but does not written MR. It's like national. It's like Ministry of Health. They are they are they are budgeting millions of money on control of drug control, which they are putting aside. That one are MR activities, but does not written MR activity. It's like in the Ministry of Livestock, we have some of the projects, like the project of vaccination. This is the MR activity, but they are not written MR activity. So if we want to go to maybe to see what is the MR activity and how they are costed in the budget, you will see maybe you couldn't say the raw percentage. Maybe you could say 50%, because all the IPC also if you go to national laboratory, they have budget for the laboratory activities. These laboratory activities, which is concerned for surveillance and the genomic also, especially, which they have started, which these ones are MR activities. So I think we have to say by viewing from that standpoint.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think Professor Mate is still digesting. But I think the way government works, it's like you really have to show what you want to do in the different documentation. So we have, for example, the 2050 vision. I'm not sure, Professor, you are included in commenting towards making that. And then we have the strategic plans for every ministry, I think, and organizations. And if we are not participating in making those, our budgets will not feature. It will be hidden in other, budgetary items. So I think the message that is coming is to clearly identify the key issues and put them in our daily, let's call it premise, because it's the final part that we get assessed. And perhaps then it will be clear, very clear. I know the government is trying. Then it will be very clear that the items get funded. I think it's not just enough that the National Action Plan has costed the items, but then it needs to feature back in the implementer's activity plan. So that is my translation, and thank you, Dr. Kayuni, for your comments on that. Now I will go back to Ms. Mwanaisha. And in this time, One Health was also mentioned by one of the panelists. And while the One Health strategy is well defined in Tanzania, what concrete institutional mechanisms are missing that prevent the smooth data sharing among the human health, veterinary, and environmental sectors? Because when we are singing the song, it appears that we really have this working. And you can maybe, given this opportunity, explain to us how well this is working.
Thank you very much. Data sharing in One Health approach is very common problem. It's known from, it's a time now. We speak about the data sharing platform. But for now, Prime Minister's Office designed disaster management information system, which include One Health platform for data sharing. We have been a number of several meetings on discussing what data should be shared from ministries, agents, even universities, MUHAS, and so on, regarding to the data obtained from the research. So we have that data sharing platform. It is in final stage now. We have the data agreements forms or letters go to Ministry of Earth and the Ministry of Livestock at the starting point, because those are ministries which have the data system so that we can share or integrate that data. And the platform is already there. And those developers will already work on the dashboard, waiting for that agreement so that we can have that platform very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it seems there is quite work going on this, but if anyone wants to give any additional contribution to that, are we happy? Are we really involved in the development of these tools? Or are we going to be involved after results have come out? stakeholders?
I think that's where we're missing the important issues, because if there's something to be formed that needs to address problems of the community, I think the stakeholders need to be involved. And not only academic and research institutions, but also community engagement.
Yeah.
Stakeholders have, because what is going to happen is that the tool that is going to be developed will be like a white elephant.
Maybe it's a bit too early to say that, but I think the tool will be there. This is that's also my thinking, that is a very high level tool that will be developed. So the question is what you brought, Professor, whether all the stakeholders are involved, not only the academics like Professor Mate, but also the community. So my call is for the community. This should not just be the very, very high level where the minister is looking at the dashboard and seeing what is happening in the environment sector, what is happening in animal. It's all about how it trickles down to the lower levels.
Okay, thank you. To start with, we start with those ministries at national level, and later we can see how it goes to the region.
I will come back to you if we have time. But the next questions will go to Dr. Joseph Malakalinga. And in this case, we will take a look at the food chain. And the question is, with the recent focus on foodborne antimicrobial resistance, what are the limitations of the current food safety regulatory framework in systematically monitoring the issues of antimicrobial residues and resistant bacteria in meat and dairy supply chains? Professor indicated how he worked with his students, and they have observed across several food chain products, noting widespread residues presence. Please enlighten
Thank you
us.
very much. Yes, I have to acknowledge that there has been a delay in implementation of AMR surveillance in food chain. And this could be the reason due to most of the guidelines that govern the food safety, they are not addressing the antimicrobial resistance. So most of them, they aimed at safeguarding the public health, just by saying that food maybe should be free from contamination, especially for like Salmonella, E. coli. So this, I think, was a limitation how the institution could implement the AMR surveillance. But recently, we thanks the National Action Plan, the old one was not addressing the issue on antimicrobial resistance in the food chain and the issues on environmental antimicrobial resistance. But the recent one, the new, clearly addresses the AMR in the food chain and pinpoint the responsible institution. So on our side, the TBS, based on in reference to this National Action Plan, we were now able to communicate with the management system that yes, we are pioneering food safety. So we have been doing good, but we lag behind on the antimicrobial resistance. And we showed some evidence on some parts of the National Action Plan. So from there now, I think it's an approach now for other institutions to rely on National Action Plans, as we have used on our side at the TBS. And from there, we managed to convince the management. And we included the AMR surveillance issues on food safety in the budget. And currently speaking, our laboratory has a capacity now. We are doing antimicrobial stability tests using disk diffusion method. But now we are doing MIC using the Vitec, the modern technology, Vitec machine. So, and now we have also established the AMR surveillance center for gene resistance genes to foodborne pathogens that we isolate from the food sample. So, what I would advise to other institutions, although there are some guidelines that have not mentioned the AMR, as one of the speakers was saying, that did you, okay, the national plan is there, but did you put it in a track so that they can put in the budget, the respective institution? So I think we should take effort first to rely on the national action plan, but we can also review our guidelines, the previous guidelines, to include the AMR. As we know, One Health approach has been a new discipline in Tanzania. So having said that, TBS now, we are extending our capacity to genomic level, and there was a discussion with the management on how, because we have a section for food safety. So that section needs to track also the infection. And you have seen the genomic surveillance as one of the tools for tracking the infection. But that was on diagnostics. So the capacity nowadays, we have the capacity. Okay, I will encourage also and most of the data, as you see, we have been depending on the students' research. But the national surveillance data, we are not there. So currently, we have more than 300 data. And we've been sharing to National Technical Working Group. I'm a member of the Technical Working Group on surveillance, but also to MCC. There are some members can acknowledge the contribution of the TBS. So the data contribute to the policy making and other guidelines for in food safety. But to extend, not on diagnostic services, we think of integrating the AMR issues, because to rural areas, I think that to respond to the next question, we include the AMR to the rural areas. How do you approach? What was the challenge here?
And you do some sampling. Perhaps they will be interested as consumers of the food industry, where you do this sampling, what triggers the sampling actions, how much budget you already acknowledge that your institution budget is, make a budget on these issues. So perhaps you can tell us, where do you sample? You know, the food security, we have travelers coming from abroad, and they encounter all the food issues that we have. So do you go to hotels? Do you wait when there is an outbreak and get the samples, and how much budget goes into this?
Okay, let me respond. At TBS, we have two kinds of surveillance, the passive and the active one. So the passive one depends on the routine sample submitted for conformity assessment, checking the quality, whether they comply with the standards, established standards. But the other sample, based on this we call typing test. A client come and they want to understand, to know the status of a sample, not for the market, but like water samples. So they bring for knowing the status. So those kind of samples we'll see. But for the active surveillance, we target the wholesalers. Like now, in the February this year, we had the active surveillance on MRI and meat. The study conducted in Dodoma and Dar es Salaam, the coastal region. So we were targeting at the market level, street vendor, and the butcher area. But we have seen some, we need to extend our scope to like transporting logistic issues, like transporting of food materials, food products. So for now, we have a plan to, we based on the National Action Plan, but the Codex Alimentarius. And also we have, within the TBS, we have developed a standard for AMR surveillance along the food chain. So we have highlighted a lot of factors over there for AMR surveillance. So including retail, producers, food processing areas, and even in the market. We have some market surveillance.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. So I will come back to you. So it seems you are doing at, again, a high level. And the next question will be how you go into the community when we come back. But Professor Mate has... Yeah.
And the student work which we projected here is based on cheap budget. One or two words about it. Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. The research that students did here is very useful, but is limited in scope. I would like to assume that there are much more things in the food that we consume, including pesticides and heavy metals. Yeah? So I would like to advise the Ministry or TBS that it is no longer an issue now to find out whether there are residues in food. That is already established. What I would like to hear is the mechanism which you are going to employ to protect consumers from these unwanted, some of them carcinogenic substances. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so for putting that one clearly. And there's another question, and you respond to both. So, okay, normally we should hear the presenters and then have the question and answers, but I'm making an exception, maybe only one time.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Actually, I wanted to add on what you asked.
Yes, Doctor.
Regarding what Dr. Joseph was saying, and the professor just mentioned it about how do we safeguard the consumers. But again, I want to also bring on board the issue on how do we also guarantee the producers. Suppose you the level is too high and I'm already in the market and I'm selling to feed my children. What will happen again? So I wanted to add on that. If he can respond, or anybody in the board. Thank you.
Just adding up to that, if your children didn't die, maybe, yeah, let's see what he's going to say. Can you let the panelists answer to those questions, and then we'll come back to you. Just keep the questions. We'll come back. So this apparently is a very interesting topic, as you can see. The audience is very excited. So there is a question of the consumer. There is also the question of producer, but that is another industry, the agro and veterinary industry. Can you just put some extra information to that?
Yes, to respond to questions, I think I can combine all of them, the issues of residues and pesticides. So first, there are standards that govern the quality of the food. And these standards are being created based on the risks of residues and pesticides. So most of the oral products that are supposed to go to the market, they are tested. So if they comply, okay, they are released to the market and can be consumed. So because we are sure that by doing so, we are protecting our consumers. But for non-complying food products, like residual limits, because you just reminded me, we monitor also residuals, pesticides, residuals, also the antibiotics residuals. So non-complying food products are not allowed to the market, are destroyed, and we restrict them. We can be destroyed by during recalling. There is issue for recalling, also the issue for destroying the food product that has higher limit of the amount. So doing so, we've been protecting the consumers. But manufacturing, we have programs at the TBS for training the small manufacturing enterprises, including the bigger ones. and on GP, good manufacturing practice, to avoid the contamination of foodborne pathogens, including the ASIP.
So I don't know if your question was answered, but what I'm picking over and over is that there's a regulatory framework. They do take the, analyze, they make analysis. I think what Professor Matei wants to see, and I think for me this is a call, that we meet together, because probably that information is never published. It's only used when, for example, there's non-compliance. They will go and they make a stop order. So it's high time that the information is published. So Professor Matei, maybe we can sit, I think, in the sectoral committee and start looking at that in detail on how that information can be shared. And I hope this can be one of the recommendations from this dissemination, that we sit together and work out what are the cross-cutting. Because when the patient comes, they will go to Professor Seni. It's no longer to our hand, so it's now flowing to Dr. Sharon, Professor Seni. They will have to handle those patients. It's already out of their control. I'm not sure if someone will ask on the consumer advocate group. Yes.
I think you have understood, Professor Matei, what is needed, what is the mitigation.
Yes, so the
mitigation.
The data is collected.
So should, if we, on top of what Doctor has explained, should it be sent to the National Multi-Sectoral Committee so that we can get a resolution there? Because there are more than what he explained. The mitigation need to be done. More than that, yes.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Doctor. Yes.
And I think it would be very nice if these deliberations are shared with stakeholders who are, most of them who are here. Isn't it? As a catalyst towards making the necessary changes.
Dr. Opendo is recording all the discussions that are going through with our team.
Good.
Yes, Dr. Kayune.
Yes, I wanted to say that this one is not maybe the final meeting. Just we are estimating some of the gaps.
Yeah.
And I think those who are contributing, it's better if you contribute, instead of asking what are the conclusion, you just say, maybe I suggest this one so that the idea could be taken to where the platform, the decision-making platform.
Okay.
This one will help this meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kayuni, for that. Okay, for the sake of time, let us continue. We'll come back for a few additional rounds of question and answers. But now let's move on to Dr. Sharon. And this time, we are going to look at the health facility level, AMR and stewardship activities that are going on there. So given that the clinicians are critical to antimicrobial stewardship implementation, and the majority have not received some form of training in this particular issue, how can we embed stewardship mentorship programs into the daily hospital routines? Karibu.
Thank you, Professor Sangeda. I am glad to be here and share experience on the clinical grounds as we have been discussing and we've been taught in microbiology about the resistance pattern and how the patient will present, but now in the clinical grounds, things are different. We have seen from our key speaker, Professor Matei, that we have 47% of the referred patients, they are on antibiotics. So that was 2020. Maybe now we are discussing a higher number than that. So the way that I think we can embed their mentorship into the clinical grounds, I think now we can come out of the classes and have a point of care learning. So instead of sitting in a class and teaching people about AMS, AMR for 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe we can take them into the ground and have a bedside teaching on a case-to-case basis. We have improved. As of currently, we are having a multidisciplinary ward round. In infectious unit, we have a ward round discussing an infectious patient with a clinical microbiologist. We have a clinical pharmacist. So all those are acting as mentors. Whenever they see there is a sample, maybe it's not yet out, a clinical microbiologist always help us to get the results and even to interpret the results. Because sometimes you can find a clinician is not able to provide the right antibiotic because a microbiologist have given like 4 drugs which are all sensitive to the same patient. Now a clinician will stuck, which one should I choose? So maybe now we have to go into an era of providing a cascading report. Give us one antibiotic which is available in our setting so that we can use it. And that should be affordable to a patient. Another thing that as IMS in a healthcare facilities is to have the AMS champions. So in Muhimbili, we have a group of 20 AMS members, and these members have been institutionalized with 3 years terms of reference. They've been selected from different departments. So whenever we train these few members, they can be as champions in their own departments and mentoring the junior staffs. Coming into the formal training, I agree, clinicians are the main part of the AMS implementations, are the one who prescribe the medications. But every year we receive a group of interns cut across different cadres. We have intern doctors, intern pharmacists, intern lab scientists, we have intern microbiologists. All these can be trained into AMS during their induction program. So at Muhimbili, we have a 2-week induction program for every new batch of interns, and we can use it to cement this knowledge about the AMS. Another thing in a healthcare facility is to link the IPC and AMS programs. So I think by doing this, we can embed. But there is something about doctors, some resistance. So we need something that we can enforce. It should be a must that whenever you prescribe a medication, you should review your patient, maybe after 72 hours. See if there is any improvement. So by saying that, we can have a way of having a prescription timeout. Whenever we prescribe anything after 72 hours, maybe an automated system can tell you, no, you can no longer prescribe this drug until you review a patient and have maybe discontinue the medication or treat a patient into a narrow spectrum antibiotic. So I think those are the way when we enforce them into our junior staffs, they can help to reduce the AMR.
Very impressive implementation at MNH. No wonder you are the pillar of the nation. But I see all the time when you are presenting, Professor there is shaking his head. Perhaps he will add up something on what you have just said. Professor Sen, please. On this issue of clinicians and how the practice goes in the clinic.
I think what you have said is really important. So at Buganda, I think we are more or less doing the same. We are not communicating, but I think we are doing the same. So we also have the joint major out round. And because the team in the stewardship committee, we are fewer, so what we have decided, we have actually chosen the priority department in the unit, and we didn't just choose. We used our WHO PPS survey that we have been conducting for the past 2 years, and then we showed exactly where the antibiotics are used the most. For example, the proportion of use in the pediatric was like 90%. If you go to medicine, around 60. Surgery around 75%. You go to medicine, around 50. So we have specifically decided the 4 priority units where we do our major out round. So number 1 is the pediatric department, and then number 2, patients who are in a critical care unit, so ICU, both medical and surgical ICU. And then because of surgery, so we have also decided we are doing also in the plastic and reconstructive surgery. So that's a unit, specifically the burn unit, because that's where we saw like the use was very high and the infection were also very high. So like we have now targeted the interventions on this. Pertaining to restrictions, I think I think that's something really good. I've said exactly like in the 4 interventions, one is restrictive AMS intervention, and probably should blend it in our online platform, so that at the end of the day we go. One key thing which clinicians are not happy with our committee, it is the turnaround time. So you take a sample, you get a result after 3 or 5 days. So they're not happy with that. So for us, what we have decided now, we are introducing a point-of-care molecular assay. So it's called a LAMP technology. We have already validated like 10 AMR markers. So you just take urine sample, you take blood sample, you put in a machine, within 2 hours, it will tell you it is safe resistance, carb resistance, or something resistance. So we are hoping as we wait for our culture, because we need that bacteria as well, at least we'll have something to guide. So we are piloting, and we're hoping if it will work, then we'll be able to scale up it in other countries.
Okay, that's quite impressive as well, having 10 AMR markers that you do a constant surveillance. I think it's a very novel and innovative that can be scaled. I like the idea of automation, the 72 hours automation, and getting reminders. But I'm a bit skeptical whether this will work in our setting, but I think it will be a very good idea.
So that's in idea, but currently when we are doing the AMS ward round with the microbiologist, we do it manually. It's just a reminder that we need to review this patient's antibiotic, but we are planning to have it in the automated way by informing the IT personnel in our hospital so that they can put it in place in our electronic health management system.
Excellent. So really good plans, and I think everybody is learning from this kind of experience sharing. So yeah, thank you. I'm now going to move on, looking at prescription patterns in the animal sector. And so specifically I go to Dr. Emmanuel Mayenga. So as we saw in the human sector, in light with studies showing widespread of non-prescription dispensing in veterinary medicines, how can we improve the regulation and oversight of agro-veterinary shops in remote areas particularly? Maybe you can also look in the urban centers, but also in the remote centers. Karibu wote.
Yeah, thank you, Professor and the audience. First, I would like to point one thing, like in animal health sector is a bit different with human health sector. Like you cannot take an animal to the hospital from Bagamoyo to somewhere, but a human you can do that. So now, if you look on these differences, now you can even forecast how animal health operation is being conducted. As done, and because of that, now we find the importance of having a strong regulation to ensure that it regulates and it operates include to all the remote areas. One of the things, the animal health practitioners, they are first registered by the Veterinary Council of Tanzania, and also including the animal health facilities like the agrovets and the animal health clinics. So if we strong, we are there on the registration mandates and the role of this regulation and how to operate these agrovets, whether it is town or in the remote, we can find the outcomes from these agrovets. We have the treatment guideline that has been established by the ministry. So it is now time to cascade the use of this treatment guidelines at the local levels. So this could be a challenge, like my colleague mentioned. If you talk about the AMR at district levels or at the community level or at the ward levels, people will not understand because they don't practice. Or they practice in a different way but is not popularly known, or document that you are practicing AMR. We have TMDA on the Ministry of Health, and then we have the DVS in the Ministry of Livestock, and then we have the BCT Council. So these, they are working together to ensure that all the drugs that are imported by the big distributors, they are all registered. And the drugs that are dispensed at the remote levels, those facilities need to be registered, including those professionals like the paravets that are working in that particular facility, in particular area, need to be registered. So, because these people are known, we can design we can use the digital platform that we have now. You can have the AMS like a training, which is, you make it free. Everyone can access, do it online, and you make it mandatory for this person to get a CPD for his or her renewal of the license. That will promote the strong implementation of the regulations. And also we have the distributors, they are distributing the drugs from one point to another. So need to know that those facilities that are illegally operated don't supply any kind of drugs. This will help to reduce the misuse of the drug that's perhaps being sold in the remote areas. And many years back, you could find, if you go to the open market like Mnada wa Ng'ombe, you could find antibiotics they are being sold openly. But currently the government has made a step ahead on that by having this the mobile agrovets with a car that have all the requirements for handling drugs. So now you may not find those people who are just like they are selling Viatu shoes open like that. So, and now there is a law that is enforcing on some of the drugs that have been reserved like the way it is in human. Previously, those things were not there. If it is capable available in the market, for listing, you find it there. So these were the challenges. So those are the things that I can highlight by now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for that. You've clearly given the highlight on what can be done. What I picked from you and from previous speakers, these big distributors, big farmers, in every meeting I've gone with issues of AMR, AMS, I've never seen these people come to these meetings. What I normally see, they probably come and they are big funders. Normally you see their names on the logos, but I'm not sure they are involved in this problem that we are having of antimicrobial resistance. Maybe their role is just to market their products, and they are not aware. They're just pushing the clinicians to prescribe their drugs. I would like to put this on agenda next time when we have a meeting like this, and maybe for them to be engaged as well in some of the national platforms to discuss antimicrobial resistance. So I think we are running out of time. So I will ask the audience to give 3 burning questions for the sake of time so that we can continue to the closing session. There will be other platforms where we'll discuss these issues. And as a chair of the 14th MUHAS Scientific Conference, I invite everyone who has posters outside or has not submitted, today is the deadline. That's another platform to discuss. Not as specialized as this, but yes, you are welcome to bring your discussions there. So now I open up, just introduce yourself. You can say who you are directing your question to, or make it general for any of the panelists. Karibuni. But before we do that, let us appreciate our panelists who has given us and shared their experiences widely. Let's give a hand of applause to them. Yeah, is that enough? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now, questions. Ushers, you can take the microphones, 3 people, and then, the keynote speaker also want to ask a question.
Thank you. I am Elbarik Israeli, and my question for the person from TBS. Okay, we have seen in one abstract that there are a lot of residues of ARV in a lot of meat products we use daily. So, and most of them are human designated antiretroviral drugs. So, as an organization dealing with standard, that is obviously a public health threat because it is causing drug resistance. So, and one of the recommendations there was banning the use of human designated ARVs in meat. So how are you going to implement that banning? And another question is, we have said that a big contributor for antimicrobial resistance is unnecessary prescription of antibiotics in our local pharmacies. So,
okay, only one question.
What are you going to do on that?
Question, you have one question for a TBS colleague. Next. Thank you for that. Next, we have 4 hands. So we'll answer all the questions once they are done.
Good evening, and thank you so much, panelists, for very insightful and sharing your experiences around AMR/MS. I'm Harriet Nduma from the School of Public Health here at MUHAS, and small questions to Prof. Seni as the AMS Technical Working Group Chair for the MCC. So one is, so we see that it's around AMR stewardship. So we see that there are different, sort of prescribing behaviors across public and private sector. And I want to understand, how we can address the difference across the sectors, because we understand very well that, the prescription behaviors of the private sector is probably driven more by patient demand, financial incentives, as well as sort of perceived outcomes on better outcomes when patients are given stronger antibiotics as compared to the broader spectrum and those that are lower generations. So are there, is there anything that is going on at that level to sort of address these differences across the private and the public sector, but also to, the penalties that you talked about, how are they executed? And last is, we understand very well that climate change is recognized.
Okay, I think we need only one question, please.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. That's all.
Thank you. The last 2 hands.
Thank you.
After that, then Dr. here.
Good evening. I'm Zakaria. I'm directing my question to Professor Sen. He gave us a very interesting initiative that they have in Bugando regarding the AMR diagnostic markers that they're doing. I might just a very small question to Prof. Prof, do you have any evidence that you have seen so far with that initiative that you have seen that can contribute well in clinical decision making, especially in inappropriate or unnecessary use of the antibiotics to patients, perhaps improving the patient outcomes? That's just a very small question because it's an interesting thing that I have had in this room this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, last question, Dr. Kibwana.
Good afternoon once again. I don't have to introduce myself. So my question is not for a specific person, but maybe perhaps to any government member, and if there's anyone from Farmers Council. So what is the take or the perception of the government on the use of non-lab testers to perform simple diagnostic tests such as MRDT, especially in peri-urban settings such as the adults, to reduce the use of antimicrobials? So what's your take on that?
Thank you. So now I'm not going to repeat the questions, so just let's give the microphone to, I think the first question was directed to our colleague from TBS, so we are going to give the microphone to him to answer that question about the ARV residues. Karibu.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, there was issues on ARVs, and there was some publications that addressed the issue, detection of ARVs in some animals. But as far as we know, this is not a common, it's not a common treatment method maybe for using ARVs. In animals, we are detecting like antibiotic residues because it's widely used and it's used for treatment. So it's a kind of misconduct of farmers, maybe it's farmers, and I think this is at the farm level. I'm not sure if doctors, a veterinary doctor prescribe ARVs. So it's kind of misconduct that has been going on, maybe, I'm not sure. It has not been concluded to the beyond doubt. So anything for the compliance should have standards. And the standard is based on the risks assessment. So if there's issues like that, there's the option of developing standards. But for ARVs, because it's, I think the animal health now can help me there. For TBS, because we have a food risk section, we heard about that issues, and I think the data, we reviewed the publications, by the way, okay, and we seen there was some weakness behind it, so could not conclude that the ARV are real a problem.
Yeah. So thank you, Doctor, for Dr.
But we have taken the concern.
Thank
we will present to responsible.
Thank you. Dr. Manuel Mayenga would want to comment.
Yeah. I think that was very, very interesting questions. One thing I want to point out is, I think there is no profession that prescribe ARVs to be used in pigs or in a broiler, or for our professionals. So we have to find out where is the source of these ARVs. Who is giving these people? If these people, they are known, that's okay. This is the source of ARV. I think the Ministry of Health, they are the ones providing those ones. Whether they are given to patients and patients they decide to sell. Why are they selling? Is it because they are okay with the HIV? Or they are used to eat? Or they say, okay, whether I die, now I have lived for enough time to, this is enough time for me to live, I should provide this to somebody so I can get money. But there must be something that is contributing to these people and selling the ARV to the farmers. So if we can control the source, and then these farmers will not be able to obtain these drugs like simply like the way you can get anything in the market. They are not sold in the market. There must be someone who is.
Thank you, Dr. Malakalinga.
Ethics is very important.
We have to spot the person who is able to supply the quantities sufficient enough to animals, because the animal dose is different from human dose. It has to be someone really on the, we need to identify that and actually actions be taken. Professor, you have been addressed a couple of times.
Yes, so I have two questions. I think the first one was on the public-private disparities. So, if you go to public, it's not like driving maybe the demand, right? And you're thinking maybe in the private, because also there is a financial incentive, so maybe you're thinking that one can drive. So if you look on our consumption data, antimicrobial consumption data from the national, there was a relatively higher AMC in the private sector, private hospitals, relatively compared to the public. But again, the consumption data is not like what is used by the patient. It is what has been actually procured by the hospital, by a pharmacy. So I think it's our high time now to go down to facility level. But if you go down to facility, if you look at the 2 rounds of WHO point prevalence survey that we did last year in June and last year in November, I think Aga Khan was also part of that. And if you look, it wasn't really, the use in Aga Khan Hospital wasn't really very far from the rest. So we are ranging from like 45% to around 65%. And even Aga Khan was also within that. One thing which was really appealing, when you look, if you compare the data that Professor Matei has presented, like what's the proportion of utilization of laboratory services among those patients who are given antibiotics. So the paper that we did across 6 regional referral hospitals and tertiary hospitals, it was actually, I think there were very few patients out of, less than 10 out of 500 plus. But when we did the repeat survey that we did, I think it has gone up to 25%. Around 25%. Hospitals like Muhimbili, Bugando, and the Aga Khan, they were all above 30. They were between 30 and 35%. So I think something is happening. We can't really blame like the private sector, but they are not probably doing whatever they're doing. If you look on the use at patients level, the proportion of use is more or less within the same percentages, both in the private and public. But then if you look on the consumption, like how much is procured, how much is it like brought in the country, and then directed to the private hospitals. So that was relatively higher in the private sector compared to public. So I think this is a wake-up call to keep on bridging the private public, whichever initiatives we are doing should not only be limited to public sectors, should go also to private sectors. And we are using Aga Khan because Aga Khan has satellites almost all over the country. And we are thinking when you use Central Aga Khan here in Dar es Salaam, it will be easier for the stewardship activity to be cascaded down. So we're using Aga Khan as a model, and we're hoping to engage more and more hospitals. At the moment, I think it's Aga Khan, Hindu Bandal, and the Rabininsia, together with Bosch. So those are the 4 hospitals which are in the program. So I think we are looking forward to engage more and more. Then quickly, the joint, whatever we are doing, the initiative that we are doing at Bugando, whether they have brought tangible outcome. I think I can give 2 examples. One, because now we are doing a joint major round, we are able to timely detect the outbreak. So for example, carbapenem resistant sepsis or carbapenem resistant bugs which are involved in the skin and soft tissue. And as I've said, from ICU and burn unit, we were actually able to contain at least 3 outbreaks, 2 in neonatal ICU, which were involving Pseudomonas, and Acinetobacter, which are resistant to carbapenem. So because of these linkages, so now there's an alert. If we get it in the lab, the lab quickly informs the IPC and the chairperson for the stewardship at the same time. And this one now works together to go to the unit, isolate that patient to like a designated room, and then we strengthen the IP. So I think that's something which we have achieved. Then the second one, because when we go jointly, we are also identifying which profession maybe have some gaps so that we bridge. So one of the things that we noted, we had high contamination rate, especially for the blood. Like for the past 3 years, it was around 15 to 20%, with a lot of coagulous negative staphylococcus. And when we quickly looked between the line, we realized it is actually the one who are doing phlebotomy. And mostly of these are interns, either intern doctors, intern nurses, or intern laboratory scientists. And you train this group, in the next 2 weeks, they are not there. You train again, after 2 months, they have been moved. So now we have actually integrated what my colleague here from Muhimbili said. We are also training, actually, stewardship and the AMR and the IPC training is actually part of the induction course for the intern. And when we started that, actually just last week, I had an induction course for approximately 25 interns from the nurses, pharmacy, laboratory, and doctors. So I think those are the 2 things, so reduction of contamination rate, when we identify that intern need to be strengthened in terms of knowledge, but also timely identification of outbreak and isolation of those patients appropriate so as to cut the transmission.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor, for the response. The last question, yes, Dr. Matthew, if you want to respond to Dr. Upendo's question.
2019, when I was heading the unit of health commodities and diagnostic services at the President's Office, Regional Administration and Local Government, I happened to be invited in a meeting by the Farmers Council. There are also representatives from Muhimbili. There was a push from these malaria people. They wanted to incorporate the test in the ADO and the farmers' premises. There was a very strong move. Now, by then, the Farmers Council, who is the one that register and oversee what should be executed within these outlets, rejected the request. Now, I'm not sure whether that stance is still in place or has been changed. Probably now we need to consult the Farmers Council, the registrar, that should these the ADO dispensers, the pharmacists, also hold their laboratory services within the premises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very briefly, we have to close. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to add something from the animal health sector. Like in the animal health sector at the lower levels, we have those rapid tests that can be conducted at farm levels. But the challenges has been how to carry this equipment or materials from the lab to the farms. So with the availability of mobile labs, I think we are going to have to solve this problem. TVLA will soon have the mobile labs that they can be able to move from one point to another. So I think the issues of diagnostics issues will be a bit reduced, and that will promote targeted treatment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mayenga. So this takes us to the end of this panel discussion. Once again, I want to thank the panelists for their time. They've traveled from very far to come here just to be with us. So we will give them a hand of applause, and we'll do that until they are seated back their seats and while the MC comes in front. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Simameni.
So those who are for the panelists, now we want to put for the chair. The chair has done very well. We can put our hands together for him. Thank you, Professor Sangeda. And thank you for make sure that we are within the time. Now we have come almost to the end of this symposium. I would like now to welcome the Professor Doreen Mloka, who is going to give us closing remarks on behalf of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Consultants. Karibu sana, Professor Doreen.
Poleni, clap for yourselves. But I think it was very interesting. We had an interesting session. So not to take a lot of your time, let me just give I am not the DVC research. I am Doreen Mloka. I have been hijacked to this job. So don't think Bruno is tall and lean. I'm short and fat. So don't mix me up. So I think we've had a very interactive discussion, and we've opened venues for newer research. So to close this research symposium on AMR, I'd just like to give some closing remarks. And in honor of our guest of honor, who has already left, but representatives from the Ministry of Health, Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Livestock, who are all here, our French embassy representative who's already gone, deans and directors present, members of the National AMR MCC committee, the chair, Professor Sangeda, for a wonderful job, members of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology, MUHAS, and I would especially mention Professor Matei, our keynote, and Dr. Upendo, our PMI for Rocket. And I would also like to thank all the distinguished panelists who are here, colleagues from MUHAS and MNH, MUHAS students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. As I'm told, I stand before you this afternoon on behalf of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, MUHAS, Professor Bruno Sunguya, who is unable to be here with us today due to pressing engagements. So please indulge me for being him today. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate the Department of Microbiology and Immunology, MUHAS, in collaboration with Directorate of Research and Publication and Innovation, for organizing not only a timely but an important symposium under the theme Advancing the Fight Against Antimicrobial Resistance in Tanzania, One Health Update, Progress Gaps, and the Road Ahead. This is so timely because the issue of AMR is a very pertinent issue. I think you will agree with me, the symposium has been a valuable platform for assessing and identifying gaps and strengthening our collective commitment in implementing Tanzania's National Action Plan on AMR 2023-2028. Throughout today's presentations and discussions, we've been reminded that AMR is a pertinent public health issue. Infections that you could treat with penicillins, now you can't even manage them. People are dying left, right, and center. And if you look at it in context, think of the deaths in MRI like all the 100+ buses that leave Ubungo terminal on one day crashing and everybody dies. That's how many people are dying, more than HIV, more than malaria, and we're not thinking about it contextually. So the symposium has also told us what are the drivers for AMR. They've looked at misuse of antimicrobials both in the human, the animal, the environment, the food sectors, the inappropriate prescribing, weak IPC, control measures, poor diagnostic facilities, and unregulated access to antimicrobials, and the disposal of antimicrobials into the environment, the results of food and the environment. All of these are drivers. But one thing that the panelists have discussed for us is the application and the critical role of a One Health approach in addressing AMR by promoting multidisciplinary collaboration and systems thinking. I really congratulate the Department of Microbiology because the panelists were very multidisciplinary, and that is One Health approach. The One Health approach will enable us, if we apply it, to effectively improve our AMR stewardship programs, improve IPC, enhance diagnostic surveillance monitoring of antimicrobial risk and resistance, but more importantly, to increase public awareness of AMR across all sectors. And it will also allow us to work together to apply innovative research methodologies like proteomics, genomics, metagenomics, but it also enforces regulatory systems across all sectors, human, animal, environment sectors, and how to support collaboration across sector to source for research funding and to share AMI data for the better of this country. Hence, implementation of the National Action Plan on AMR will depend on sustained multi-sectoral collaborations and prioritization of AMR in the budgets of all relevant sectors. AMR is a real problem that we need to work together across the sectors, but most importantly, we need to act now. And I would like to quote an African proverb that says, "One finger cannot kill lice. Kidole kimoja hakivunji chawa." So let's stop the silos and work together to fight AMR. And with those many remarks, MUHAS would like to thank the guest of honors for his commitment and valuable time as the national AMR champion, the French Embassy for the continued support in the AMR fight, all speakers, panelists, presenters, organizers, and participants for their invaluable contribution and to the success of the symposium. I now, on behalf of the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, declare the 17th University-wide Symposium on AMR officially closed, and thank you all for your participation. I wish you all a pleasant evening and a safe journey home. Asanteni.